Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time We Discuss studio. Today I have Magician and Illusionist Joe Holiday. This is a good one. Today on Time We Discuss, I have Magician and Illusionist Joe Holiday. Joe, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you've been a featured entertainer in countless performances internationally across America, including Las Vegas and Atlantic City. You've performed as a headliner for major cruise lines and mega companies like Google and Honda. And you've performed your full magic and illusion show for U.S. troops stationed overseas, along with many other A-list celebrities. You have a lot going on. Before we talk about how you got started, what's a typical day like for you as a magician?
It starts super early. I'm a family man as well. I have two kids and my wife, so we do everything that we can to keep everybody in check for school and get things ready to go. I usually jump on my computer first thing in the morning, return emails. Sometimes I've got several. Sometimes I've got contracts because I don't have management, so I do a lot of my own marketing. I do a lot of my own publicity, as well as I handle all of my paperwork. So if there's travel itinerary or contracts to be done, then I'm doing it all. And I do have some friends and people and colleagues that I work with. I have my lawyer, so he can look over contracts if there's something I question. So I do have a lot of people in the business that I use as a resource. And then the rest of the day depends upon if it's a show day. If it's a show day, I'm out the door. If it's the day before show, I'm out in my garage packing, preparing for the show. Because it depends on the venue. I could be working for like a corporate company, could be working for an elementary school, or I could be working in a showroom somewhere, depending upon where and when the venue is. So, and then if there's some time afterwards, I do as best I can to be the father and spend time with the kids and find out what's going on in their day. Try to catch dinner together if I can. And then I'm a little older now. Back in the days before I had kids, I would run, and now I'm doing my best to slow everything down a little.
Are any of your kids interested in magic? Are they trying to follow your footsteps?
Well, I have two girls. The one is in eighth grade, getting ready to go into high school, and my oldest, or our oldest, is a senior in high school. So she's got her eyes on college now. So when they were younger, they thought it was a novelty. They're like, "Whoa, this is cool! Like we could do magic tricks." And I think my oldest did a show once, like in the garage with me, and like she was like, "Okay, well, I figured out all of the tricks in magic. I'm good." And then that was it. And that was like the short-lived, like, maybe I'll have a successor in magic in my family. But no, both my girls dance. My youngest dances competitively. My wife is a dance teacher, 22 years. So both girls dance. They're involved with theater and all kinds of different things. So I think I've got dancers and artists in my future, but no future magicians. When I get a job, like let's say when they were younger, I used to work at Fantasy Island Amusement Park in New Jersey here. And they were like, well, you can bring your kids along and we'll give them wristbands. They can ride the rides for free. And I was like, this is awesome. So every summer they're like, did you get that job at Fantasy Island? Because we really like riding the rides. And we're like, yeah, you can go. All right, cool. So, and now the novelty is kind of worn off. You know, they actually last summer, my one brought her teenage friends and they literally just walked around and hung out. It was like a cool thing. But don't go near dad. That's kind of weird, you know.
Now, I have to ask you this too. So, I have a strong tech background. So, invariably, someone had a computer problem. I
Okay,
was the guy to go to. Friends and family, and I
gotcha,
like helping them. It's not a big deal. How
gotcha.
many times is it where you're at a family gathering or something, and it's like, oh, Joe, can you show me that trick where you do this? Or can you, how many times are you called upon to do some kind of impromptu magic with family and friends?
What's the old adage? If I had a nickel for every time, yeah, I can't tell you the amount of times. And usually it's not family. I think my family's pretty respectful. My dad, just so that you, and we'll go back real quick. My mom and dad had regular 9 to 5 type jobs. My mom was a paralegal and my dad was a union carpenter. And when I got involved in magic, which we'll get into later, about 13 years old, they really disliked their jobs. They weren't happy in their jobs. And they met a couple who were like children's entertainers. And they go, yeah, we just travel around locally. We book ourselves at like children's parties. We do like face painting and balloons and magic. And we enjoy our life and we have more free time than we did when we worked a 9 to 5. So I remember my mom coming to me saying, we're going to quit our jobs and we're going to be children's entertainers. And I'm like, yeah, great, awesome. And I'd already just kind of started out in magic. I was still finding my way. And sure enough, 1 year almost to the date, they then became Penny and Joey J the clowns, and they learned how to do makeup. They had costumes made. They learned they had to do a magic show. They had their balloons. They had their face painting. And believe it or not, they became more famous or maybe infamous in this area than I have ever been. And people will still say, "Hey, do you know Penny the Clown?" I go, "Yes, it's my mom." They're like, "That can't be your mom." It's amazing. And now, just recently, they're in their 80s now. They've retired, so I believe they lived a much longer life, and I believe they enjoyed themselves more by being able to be entertainers and kind of reliving when their kids, me and my sister, were out of the house, having kids again. Kind of because they were there to take care of them and to do shows for them and to see their reaction. But yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have gone out and they're like, "Oh, hey, we're going to a party. You want to come along? Do you have a deck of cards with you? Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, that'd be good. You should come along then." Like, I'm only the entertainment. Yeah.
And even if you
So
forgot a deck of cards, I'm like, oh, hold on, I have one. I have one for you right here.
yeah, yeah. Now it can be to your advantage. There was a time that my wife and I were on a cruise ship and we ported in Key West. We had this one run where we would run around and always go back to Key West. And we would always go back to this one bar that we loved. The bartender knew me as a magician because we had talked once or twice. And he says, "Hey, I bought a bag of these balloons. I don't know how to make them, but if you make a couple balloons for me, I'll put them around the bar. You could drink for free all night." And I'm like, "I'm in." So I blow up those long pencil-like balloons. You twist them into a dog or something. I made the bartender a hat, and they became a conversation piece for him, and made it easier for him to sell a drink to somebody. And I sat with my wife there that night, and we drank for free, and it was amazing. We selfishly went back a few times, just to make sure that he knew what he was doing.
I love it. I
So
love
it
it.
was great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So talk to me about how you got started. Because one of the questions I was thinking of earlier today was, invariably when people have dreams to be, rock stars or
Mhm.
actors or athletes, and invariably you have
Yeah,
to have that conversation with your parents. It's like, I want to do this when I go. I'm just, oh, well. But it seems like
yeah.
your parents may have been a little more grounded, considering what happened after the fact. So how did you actually get started as a magician?
So yes, parents very liberal, very grounded, very like, I don't care what you do as long as you do it well and you don't hurt anybody. So I was about 13, and I don't know why, because I've asked this question to them several times. They decided to take me and my sister to a magic show at a church down in Margate, New Jersey, which I lived in Atlantic City, like in Atlantic City proper. Now I live outside of Atlantic City, and Margate's a couple of shore towns down on the beach here in Jersey. So we went to this church and we saw the show, and it was great. I liked it. There was nothing special. My dad was a carpenter, as I'd mentioned, and he had talked to the magician and said, "Hey, where does my son find out about more magic tricks? Is there a magic shop?" Or, back in the day, this would have been in the 70s, maybe mid 70s. He says, "Yeah, there's a couple shops here and in Philadelphia and wherever, and you could go there." He said, "But you said you're a carpenter." He said, "Well, I've got a couple tricks that are kind of broken, they need repair. If you could repair these boxes for me, I'll teach your son a couple of card tricks." So I was a part of a barter agreement. So it was one of those things where I learned a couple tricks, and I really liked the mechanics of how it worked and why it worked. I remember saying, "I don't know how these things work." So to find out how it worked and kind of pull away the curtain and learn the craft and learn the tech behind it, to me, was phenomenal. So performance was really kind of not my thing. I didn't want to be special and be a rock star or be a superstar magician. I just like finding out how the tricks worked. And then what happened is inevitably every Christmas I would go to the family Christmas party and I would do a couple magic tricks for them, and they loved it. It was great because your family, they're always going to take care of you. And then a woman stopped my mother and said, "Hey, my daughter's having a birthday, and I heard your son's a magician. Could he come and perform at my daughter's birthday party?" So I had my blue confirmation suit on. I had my tables and all my props. And again, dad being the carpenter helped me make a couple things ahead of time. And I went and did a show for these kids. And at the end of the show, they're like, "Here." And they handed me a couple bucks. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is like a job." And I really enjoy doing what I do. So it really was just a hobby all throughout my early years. And I worked for like civic groups. And remember, that was like 80s. So that's when the casinos first came up in Atlantic City. So literally in my backyard, I had all of these showrooms and venues and places to work. And I didn't work in the casinos right away, but I would dodge in and out, maybe if there was like an event or something. And then eventually I got my break into the casino industry, and that really helped me because again, it gave me so many different venues to work in and to try out my craft. Where most magicians spend years, not really getting a show or maybe doing very small shows. I was put into a situation where you better do well, or if not, we don't hire you back again. So the stakes were high, but it was a lot of fun, and that's how I kind of, as they say, cut your teeth and got involved. And it was just simply going to a show, just going to a magic show, and being like, how does that work? And I think even to this day, as a magician, and I think all magicians across the board, they will agree, or we will agree, that when you see a trick that fools you, it takes you back to that moment where I sat at the church watching that show, and I go, I don't even know what he's doing there. And that to me is the best ever. Eventually, I will find out, or I'll read about it, or I have a colleague who says, oh, this is the method that he's using, or whatever. But man, I love being fooled. It's great. So.
I agree. I agree. Like I said, even before I started recording, I love a good magic trick. I love magic, always have. How often do you have to like create new magic tricks or work out tricks? How does that process work?
Yeah, it's probably one of the hardest things for me. There are a lot of guys in this industry who are super creative and they're pumping out tricks all the time, and I have the utmost respect for them. Sometimes I'm not as creative, so I look for inspiration and I listen to a lot of other people in different genres of entertainment. Like for instance, I'm a huge '80s guy. Rap music was coming up, and you listen to a lot of rappers from that time, and they say, "Listen, we rapped about what we lived, what we saw, and what we did." And I go, ah. So around me, whatever it was, I took the advantage of saying, okay, well, I could do magic with this item or with that item. So being close to the casinos, I said, well, I should be able to do a trick with a pair of dice. So I found a trick on dice, or I found several tricks on dice and worked out a routine. So there, like any other industry, there are conventions, there are seminars, there are magic shops that you can go to and learn from other people and learn the craft. And nowadays, with the advent of the internet, you can go to meetings virtually, which is super cool because you can't always travel to go there. So yeah, it's really about being creative with what you have around you. And my father was a magician for many, many years. So we would share ideas, or he'd see things and go, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then my thing is, I really like, if I like something, I try to put my spin on it. So if it's a show that I do in schools that promotes literacy for kids, like your kids saw, the idea is to find a book or to find a trick and then go back and find a book for it. So sometimes the process changes. It really depends on what I find. A good friend of mine, Brian Curry, he is called The Good Liar. If you are in the Washington, D.C. area, you should go see his show at the Capitol Hilton. It is amazing. He's a mind reader, magician. It's called The Good Liar. If you go to like thegoodliar.com, you'll find Brian Curry. Brian gave me this super idea. Love it. It is so cool. I have done it in schools now for a couple of months. But I had to find a book that fit it, and I just couldn't find the right book. And I don't want to give the trick away, but I'll tell you, it's a bit of a game, less of a magic trick. And in the game, if the student wins, they get to cover their teacher in silly string. So there's kind of a battle with like the student and the teacher, and they're looking at each other, and they got these cans of silly. So it's like a duel. So then I remembered, oh man, I love Hamilton. I've always wanted to put Alexander Hamilton or the musicals, tie that into some kind of trick. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Him and Aaron Burr had the duel. That's where he, his fate ended there in Weehawken, New Jersey. So I found a children's book called Aaron and Alexander. So even for younger kids, because obviously the talk of a duel with any type of pistol or weapon is kind of a touchy subject. But you can work your way around it. Like I found out by reading a children's book that Alexander Hamilton settled 12 other disputes or duels before they ever went to a battle by just talking it out. So there is a positive spin you can put on it. So here's this case where I was given a trick and I had to find the book. Sometimes I have a book and I got to find a trick. So the process always changes. And then again, when you go back into the adult thing, I learned lots of card tricks and gambling tricks and things you could do in the casino. So somebody once goes, man, you're like Atlantic City's favorite magician. You're everywhere. You're like in all the casinos. And I was like, ooh, I like that. So I dubbed myself Atlantic City's favorite magician. And it's true because I've been here my whole life. I've worked in all the casinos, even the ones that have closed. I've worked in them before they closed. So and now the new ones. And so it's great. So I still retain my title.
What is your absolute favorite type of magic trick that you like to perform?
All right. That's really difficult. I like a lot. I like stage magic because I like the idea of big productions. I really like being involved with that. When I was in South Korea, I worked for a guy named Franz Ferrari. If you look him up, it's show he had called Mega Magic, and it was in South Korea. And it was a bigger stage production than at that time anybody was doing in the world, even bigger than David Copperfield. Like you couldn't match the sheer volume of the tricks and the production. Like the opening trick where I would appear in took 5 people to move it on stage. That is not a joke. 5 people. And this thing would open up and it would be empty and there were things moving, it would close, airplanes would fly over. I'm kidding. I live near here. And I would appear. So the idea is the show was massive. I loved it. It was like the coolest thing ever. That's the only moment when I go, yeah, this is kind of like being a rock star. This is kind of cool. Because literally we would work, I think it sat either 12 or 1,500 people, and we would do like 4 or 5 shows a day. So over the course of being there for like 9 months, over 1 million people saw the show, which is just unfathomable. It's crazy. So I do like big stage stuff, but I really do like the technical close-up sleight of hand magic. So I would have to say, to answer, I like both equally because there's different things that they offer. I like, as you said, you're a big tech guy. So I like the technical end. I like looking how it works and why it works and working it out, doing a trick for an audience member and saying, okay, or a friend rather, and saying, did you like that? And they're like, yeah, but this, I don't know if I understood why that happened. Oh, okay. So I have to make this moment more visual so that they understand. So I kind of like both. It's hard to say, really, really hard to say.
Now, let me ask you this. Just you talk about your friend made me think of this. There is a show on one of the streaming platforms called The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it's about a comedian. And
Yeah, sure.
she taught
I'm very familiar.
awesome. So you know how she'll go out and she'll like workshop different comedic routines.
Yep.
Do you do that as a magician as well, or is it kind of like it's already refined, you've got it, you take it out, and you're committed to it?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Here's why. So years ago, I was still working just as a magician, and I had a friend who was a sound technician at the comedy club in Atlantic City. At the time, it was called the Comedy Stop. It's no longer there, but it was a really great, famous club. A lot of huge comedians came through, like when the comedy boom hit, like late '70s, early '80s, big, yeah. So I, he goes, listen, I need help. Can you help me? You're a tech guy. Maybe when you're not working, you could come in and help out. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I, learned to run the projector, learn the soundboard, and it was great because it gave me some more technical end on theater because I'm not a theater trained guy. Didn't go to college. I just started working right out of high school. So I met some comedians and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a magician. Like, oh, magician, we love magic. So I would watch as a comedian would work and what they would do and how they would structure. And Maisel's a perfect example because it really brings that to light. And some people watching the show don't get it. But being on this side and having seen comedy and spoken with comedians and worked with comedians, I get the idea. It's really changed the way I work as a performer, not only because I want to be funny, but because I want to work that process out. How they literally take a line of text and if it gets a laugh, they keep it and that's done. And then if they have another line of text and it doesn't really work, they can deliver it differently or take it out or change the whole structure of the joke itself. I really look at magic that way now, where after being at and by the way, after being a tech there, the early show, there was a comedian there, his name's Kozak. He's in Hawaii right now doing his show. He said, listen, I'm going to be leaving. So I told the club owner that you're the guy. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I told the club owner you're the guy. You're my replacement. I'm like, what are you talking about? And the club owner goes, so I hear you're a magician? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, what do you got? So I gave him my demo. He goes, okay, you're hired. You start next week. I'm like, okay. So I had a show that ran there almost, I think it was almost a year. It was near the end of the club kind of closing up. So I did almost a year there. So I was the early show. But again, I met all these comics. I can't tell you how many. It's probably hundreds of comics because this took over the course of a few years and learned how they work things out. And not only by them telling me, but just watching them night after night, because we would do 5 or 6 nights of shows, how they would deliver a line. And then in my head, I'd go, oh, that line's different now. So why did you do that? He goes, oh man, I wasn't getting a laugh. So I switched it up this way. And then I asked this, and this is one of the smartest things I've ever heard. I said, what do you do when you have the hardest audience ever? They're the most difficult audience ever. You see somebody up there, they're the opener, they're getting crushed. He says, well, I take my last joke, it's my biggest joke, and I move it to the front of the show and I open with that big joke. And that's going to put me here. And now I can ride this wave where I'm kind of, I don't have to start here and work my way up. And I go, wow. So I've done it a few times where I've taken my big closing magic trick and I go, you know what? I'm going to open with this because I know for whatever reason, whatever situation, this is a tough audience, and it's worked. So yeah, it's really about structure, and it's trial and error, and everything you talked about in The Marvelous Miss Maisel is exactly what it's like. That's why I like that show, because I could relate to that and understand what she was doing and how she was doing it as a housewife turned comedian. So it was amazing. It was crazy.
So before you talked about your education, you didn't
Mhm.
go to college. Someone starting out today in 2024, they want to pursue the line of magic.
Yep.
What is the best path for them, in your opinion? Are there schools for this? Learning from like an apprenticeship kind of thing, the internet? What's the best thing for them from an educational perspective?
So when I grew up coming into magic in the 70s, there was no internet, you had no cell phones. You went to a magic shop, you bought a couple tricks. And I was lucky enough to be a part of a collective in Philadelphia that is incredible. And these magicians, some of them are still alive and still working and still doing things in entertainment nowadays, and learning from them. So I would say nowadays, your best bet would be find someone who is a magician in your area. If you can, learn from them as well, but also pursue things online. A lot of magicians now, like Shin Lim, he would be the magician who won America's Got Talent and now performs in Las Vegas. And I want to say he won the second show, which was called, I think, Champions. He claims that he learned the majority of his magic coming up from the internet. So his style and his performance style is super different than a lot of other people out there. And the reason is because he only learned from watching other people on the internet. So he would learn how the trick worked or watch a trick and come up with his own method on how the trick should work, which is incredible because you can read a book on magic and you could say, well, this guy did the trick this way and this is the way I'm supposed to do it. But as you pursue the trick, you could find out, well, guess what? Maybe I could do it this way and it still works the same way. And it's true. And it works the same way as long as you can get to that end. So I would really say it's everything. If you can find someone who can help you, if you can go on the internet, if you can go to a convention virtually or in person, and there are dozens of websites that sell magic and have tutorials and like Vanishing Ink Magic. There's Penguin Magic. There's a ton of them out there that are incredible that have good resources for people who want to get involved, whether you're young or old.
Finish this sentence for me. If a person isn't comfortable doing blank, they should probably not pursue magic.
Wow. First word that comes to mind is talking, but I wasn't a kid who liked to talk in front of an audience. I hated getting up in school, and I would have to call and speak or read from a book or read my report or whatever the case was. But I think it's the opposite. I think it brings out the performer in some people, and it breaks down the wall of them being uncomfortable. But if you're not a good, wow, that's a really good one, Dan. I like a stumper. Um, how about if you're not good at practicing? Because I'm really big on practice. I always got a deck of cards in my hand, or I'm always thinking of the next big routine. So, I mean, look, everybody can do magic at any level. You could be novice, you could be just casual. Maybe you have friends over, and you want to be able to do a trick or two for them. That's cool too. You have to practice. You can't just learn a trick and walk out and do that trick. You've got to become comfortable with it. So I'm going to say the word is practice. That's what I'm going to say. If you don't like to practice, probably not going to be a good magician. Not to say you can't be, but I don't know. I'm going to say it makes it tough.
Now, obviously, this is going to vary depending on the complexity of the trick and the person and their talent.
Uh,
How much time does it take to master a particular trick? And again, all
yeah,
kinds of variables. Just a very general
yeah,
statement or a general question there.
yeah. All loaded questions, Dan. All loaded questions today. I always say to people, man, I never stop learning. I'm 54 years old. I've never stopped learning. So I always learn something new, whether it's a part of stage, entertainment, lighting, theatrics, magic. So you never stop learning. I think the biggest thing is you got to really take whatever it is that you're working on and work on it to the point of being able to do it without thinking. And then you'll be able to perform that trick for someone Yeah, it's always working it out. It's always practicing it, trying to figure it out. I think that's exactly what needs to happen for each trick, each effect. Because like you said, every trick is different. So it's just working it out, practicing, getting it to a point where you can do it without thinking. What do they call it? Muscle memory, right? So you can like a person in sports, they know when they hear the play, they know what play they've got to run. You know, or if they've got their eye on the weakness of the other player and they've got to work that weakness. So same thing with magic. You've got to work it out so you can do it without even thinking, and then that's going to help you be the better performer and work that trick out.
Joe, this is the part of the conversation where I really like to just throw a random question at the person I'm speaking with. Has
Okay.
absolutely nothing to do with your career.
Oh, awesome.
So your question for today.
Okay.
I'd like you to think of something good that happened to you over the course of your life,
Okay.
specifically something that at the time you thought this is too good to be true. What would
Okay.
that thing be?
Wow. Too good to be true. I'm going to go cliche here and I'm going to say it is my wife. No questions asked. There's a crazy story that I'm not going to share all the details with, but let's just say I called my wife one night and we started a conversation and we met through a mutual friend, and she has become not only my partner in business and my partner at home with family, but she's like the yin to my yang, keeps me in check. Because I see a lot of guys out there and I'm like, man, that guy's lost. He has no idea what he's doing. You know, like if I'm wearing something, I'm like, does this look good? She's like, no, you need to change. You do not look good. And people will think you're crazy. So best thing that ever happened to me would be my wife Sharon. No questions asked. Easy,
Uh,
easy peasy. And now we have two beautiful girls, so there's a whole nother dynamic. So yeah, best thing ever. Yeah. And to be able to travel, when we first met, we worked together on the ships and traveled, as you mentioned earlier. So it was really, really cool to travel together and see things and do things and experience it together. I have a friend who's working on ships right now by himself. It's incredible. You see in the world, but he is all by himself. So I think you miss, and I feel bad for him that he doesn't have that dynamic to share that with somebody, to share that experience.
that's a good story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So one last thing before we get going, because we are running a little bit short on time. I'd
Okay.
like to give the person that I'm speaking with the opportunity to like 1 or 2 minutes, just share something, a cause that you believe in, something about a project that's coming up, your job, something like that. So Joe,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I've been a magician at the Wyndham Skyline Tower in Atlantic City for 10 years, 10 years running. Every Saturday, 3 o'clock, I would do a show for their guests. It's a timeshare venue. It's a beautiful, beautiful property. In fact, they just finished renovating the theater, the activity room, the pool, and the year prior to that, all of the rooms got a full makeover. It is a beautiful view. And if you watch some of my videos on YouTube, you'll see that I perform there and you'll see some of the tricks. And we actually did a show in the penthouse overlooking Atlantic City. Super cool. So to be the Atlantic City guy and to be in that venue is really awesome. Well, I finally convinced them to allow to sell tickets to the public. And we are literally in the middle of signing the contract, putting all that together. So within the next few weeks, so summer of 2024, we will be selling tickets to my show at the Wyndham every Saturday, 3 o'clock. Super excited about that. And I've really pushed for that for a long time, and the hotel pushed back. You know, we're timeshare. I don't know if we want to do something like this. And then I guess corporate came down and said, hey, you got to generate revenue. Any kind of show or thing you can put on? Like, yes, we can. So they circled back to me and go, hey, your idea was right on. We should have been doing this earlier. So we finally got it all together. And again, the theater's just been renovated. And I'll share some artwork with you. So maybe we could post it as well with the video, or at least put a link to my website, joeholiday.com. You'll see the banner at the top. It'll go, you click here for tickets. And yeah, I'm very excited. Again, it's always a new chapter. You never know what's going to happen. And I'm excited the fact that people now can come, because I get asked all the time, where are you performing? Where can we see the show? And a lot of my shows are private. So this now is a public show with ticket sales in Atlantic City. So very, 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 very excited. So thanks for letting me share that with everybody.
Absolutely. That is awesome. That is really, really cool. I'll put those, the links on my website as well as in the show description notes as well. So people have access to your
Awesome.
website. We'll give them direct links to to buy the tickets. If you'd like me to do that, I can do that as well.
Yeah, for sure. You got it.
Awesome. Joe, thank you so much for speaking with me on Time We Discuss and learning what it's like to be an actual magician.
That's awesome. Thank you for having me. This was amazing. I think it's super smart. And please continue all the great work you're doing.
I will. Thank you. Thanks for popping in the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. Had an absolute awesome time speaking with Joe, and I hope you enjoyed the time too. I absolutely love magic, so for me, it was really cool to actually speak with a magician one-on-one. If there's a profession that you want me to cover, make sure you leave a comment, and I'll find that person for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.